have our inaugural F1 Academy winner crowned last weekend in Austin with 2 races to go. And what a race weekend that was for F1 Academy as a whole. So much to talk about. And also we got some new news in a few other sporting races. So welcome to Formula Talk. My name is Sophia, and joining me as always, we have the lovely Tom Downey. Hello.
If I can find the mute button, I'm back in work and I'm just, I want to go back on leave because I was in Nürburgring this time last week. So of course.
We talked about that last episode. So
I know, yeah.
Not take any videos.
Right, okay, listen here. I took one video because I didn't think about GoPros or anything because I booked it quite last minute and I haven't got any GoPros, and I have one video of me joining the Autobahn on my phone, and as soon as I hit about 110, it just turns into wind noise. So when I go next year, I'm buying GoPros and mics to go on the outside of the car because my RS5, it sounded absolute. So nice. Next time I will, I promise.
Good. Before we get into this episode, we gotta thank our sponsors for this episode, which is BetOnline. So BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on all the action. And also make sure you use our promo code BELIEVE, which is BLEAB, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. And also, make sure you're following us to know when every new episode of Formula Talk and our sister show Grid Talk is released. You can find us on all social media channels at Grid Talk UK to stay up to date with everything. F1 Academy, we had a season finale come to an end in Austin. It was live on TV. It was a great weekend to see in motorsports. The support from not only just fans, but also F1 drivers. You had George Russell giving out some of the trophies. You had Lewis in and out of the paddock with Susie Wolf, Toto's wife. It's a really great event to see. There was some great battling going on. There was some great overtakes. And Marta Garcia did, in fact, win with 2 races to go. She was able to secure pole position for race 1, and then obviously the reverse grid for race 2, and then Jessica Edgar took the second pole for race 3. So, race 1, all eyes were on Garcia, starting from pole. Normally, it is quite common for it to convert from pole to win, and that was exactly it. She did have some few battles with Jess Edgar, who was in second and making up some points for it. So what was your take of it this whole weekend overall, Tom?
I've got to be honest, I think the whole weekend was a massive success. It was, we talked weekend structure and then sort of coverage and all the rest of it, because yes, I'm going to touch on it quickly. Obviously, the start of the season coverage was woeful, but now we had Alex Jakes doing the voiceovers and and everything. We had all the graphics. It really, you're going to say something.
You had Alex. I had Harry Benjamin for mine.
Sorry, it was Harry Benjamin, not Alex. It's my bad.
And Anthony Davison as well.
Yeah, but point being, it was a proper broadcast. We had all the graphics, all the sound effects that we get for F2, for F3, for F1. Given this is F1 Academy, it's quite literally in the name, F1 Academy. We had it, and the coverage and the exposure it got was fantastic. Seeing people sitting on the hills, seeing people sitting in the grandstands. Yes, they weren't rammed full, but nobody was expecting that. And there was still a good amount of people watching. And I, for one, was so pleased to see that. As the actual racing, it was brilliant. I didn't see race 2, I will confess, because I can't remember what I was doing. I was out or something, I can't remember. But race 1 was really good, and race 3 was really good as well. I just about managed to stay up for qualifying. I was quite knackered on Friday. But yeah, it was a really well done event, really well done weekend. It's a shame that it took so long for the governing bodies to get it to this point. But I'm not going to dwell on that, he says, having just talked about it, because hopefully this sets a blueprint for moving forward. And obviously, we had Marta Garcia becoming the F1 Academy champion, which was amazing.
Definitely. They actually had probably better coverage than we see sometimes in F2 and F3. No cutting out of the awards. They had a nice pre-show, a nice post-show. It was actually probably better. It was probably better than F2 and F3 because it's always cut off so quickly, especially when it's F2 and F3 on. Sometimes you miss the podium in the Saturday races because they have to set up for qualifying on the TV. So it definitely was a great show to watch, and there was so much going on. And I think with obviously now the connections that they have with F1, with the teams being involved with one driver for each of the teams, and then 5 being additionally sponsored by F1 Academy and F1, and then obviously we are following the F1 circuit as well. I think that's going to make it even more better. It was quite interesting, some of the points that was made as well, because obviously Marta Garcia can no longer race in F1 Academy as she has won, so they are following the F2 and F3 rules. Lena Buller is now over the age because there's actually an age cutoff of 25. Megan Gilks is actually finishing her racing career now and is a performance engineer for Aston Martin. So it's not just even getting it on the track. It's also just there are so many opportunities that they can probably get outside off-track developments. And even most of the engineers for F1 Academy are females. If we look at Carling as well, for example, the person who's pretty much leading Carling, as it is a family-based team, was there and is female. It's such a great thing to see how many females are involved both on and off the track of this. And I think that is a great thing to see. And it inspires people. I know for me, I want to work in motorsports. I want to be a sports analyst and a data analyst. And this is showing pathways that I know I can't drive because I don't even have a driver's license, let's be honest. So I know I can never be on the grid, but I could be on the grid in other ways and supporting. So it is so great to see.
Yeah, honestly, it's fantastic. It's doing everything right. Arguably, the W Series did wrong, and you could argue that maybe we should have had this sooner. And I would certainly be inclined to agree with that. Again, not going to dwell on that because it's not going to fix anything. And it's good for the sport. Like you mentioned about, my mind's gone completely blank, but the one who's going to be the performance engineer for Aston, Megan. I was going to say Megan. That's it. I was going to say Jess Edgar, but I knew it wasn't her. Things like that is brilliant. And F1 Academy next year, with having the 10 F1 constructor-backed teams, I think, and please hear me out on this, I think that means that the other 5 drivers that come in, which will bring big sponsorship and all the rest of it, those are going to be what people may call pay drivers in those seats. To a point, I know they have sponsorship from F1, but there are going to be some outside sponsorship. So, but having that coming in and then supporting the rest of the series, because let's face it, Motorsport has always had drivers who bring big sponsorship, regardless of of their ability, or with some drivers we've had in F1, their lack of ability.
I can think of one off the top of my head.
Yeah, there are a few who we can talk about. One who in F1 at the minute, yes, we all know it's only going to help F1 Academy grow because it's going to bring money into the sport, which means that it will develop. There's not going to be this risk of it going under like we had before. It's backed by F1. It's backed by the teams. Bianca, obviously, being from McLaren, she's going to be the McLaren entity next year. Who's gone to Alpine? I can't remember. Or was that someone from F2? I might be getting confused. But we're going to say in a minute. But point being, it's only going to do F1 Academy well for the future. And after what has been easily their best weekend to date in motorsport, I'm really excited now for next season.
100%. It's Abby Pauling that is with Alpine, and then obviously Lena Buller was with Sauber, but obviously she is no longer competing with it next year. I think those 5 will probably be the F2 teams that we see right now. So ART, Prema, Carling, Campos, and MP Motorsport. I think that's
a really good point, actually.
It makes sense given that they've invested it so that they can have one of the drivers. Obviously, technically, they are also with the teams to begin with anyway as well. It goes backwards. So obviously it's not going to be 15 different teams. It's going to be only the 5 teams, but obviously they will be the main sponsor for that team, for that driver. Because obviously for Bianca's, for example, she'll be in full McLaren livery. So obviously she'll have the McLaren sponsorships, not any really of what will be ART sponsorship. So I think it might just switch all the sponsorships onto the last car that's not, if there is a spare seat, because obviously it could be 3 for ART, 3 for Prema, and 3 for MP, and 1 for Campos, and then Carling and the rest of Campos will be their own teams as well. We don't know who's going to which, and I think a lot of it's going to be probably announced in the upcoming months leading up to the start of the season, start of the test season as well. I think they are doing a postseason testing as well. It's not fully confirmed, but it makes sense to do it because that's what all the other disciplines have been doing. But let's just talk about what the performance was overall. So race 1, as mentioned, Marta Garcia did win, followed by Abby Pulling and then Lena Bullard in P3. In race 2, F2, as it was reverse grid, Hamda was starting from pole. She then converted it into a win. Lena Bullard came into second, and Jessica Edgar came third, very close to coming into P2 as well. I will also mention about this as well, and I know we do speak about her quite a lot, but need to speak about Bianca. She stalled as she was stuck on the grid at the start, meaning she dropped down to the bottom. She moved 7 cars in 8 laps and to get points. What?
That's insane, isn't it?
And the thing is that there was also another car that stalled on the grid at the same time as her, and they only finished, I think they finished 11th. That shows her ability to drive. There's a really cute clip, and it's all over social media, and it's the never give up kind of one of with her and her engineer with Prema. But she also did it in race 3 as well. She got clipped onto turn 1 with another driver and then had to make up grids. She didn't get into the points, I don't think. We'll double check it when we talk about race 3, but that shows how good of a driver she is, and McLaren's made a really good decision to bring her on for the next season.
Oh, absolutely. I was a bit concerned when I saw her stall on the grid, but she's still super young, and it's the kind of thing that she'll learn. And the racecraft she showed to filter through the field like that, that was really impressive. That was really impressive.
Yeah, and it was race 3 that obviously she did have the crash, but then she also had a 5-second time penalty, so she was finishing in P13. So not the best weekend for her, but looking at race 3, though, we do have a brand new race winner, and it took to the last race of the season, and it was Jessica Edgar for Carling who won from pole, with Nuria Marti coming in second and Marta Garcia coming in third. That means we've had so many winners then. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 out of 15 be a race winner. You can't get that in F1. You can't get that in F2 or in F3, let's be honest. And to be fair, there was only one driver who almost won at least one race of every single round, and that was obviously Marta Garcia. She didn't do well in Barcelona or in Zandvoort, but I know she did podium in those races. But all the other ones, she won at least one of those races, sometimes even 2. This is showing how great... I'm so excited for the season already. I know I had my reservations and my negativity about how it was because we just didn't know what was going on. There was so much kept in the dark about what was happening. A lot of decisions were made too close to the time, so I was skeptical. I think it was just a rush job, but after watching this entire season so far, I definitely do take it back, and I think it's probably one of the best seasons. I watched W Series as well. I've seen it for the last 3 years that W Series was around. Yeah. I think this is done 10 times better than what they've done in that 3 years, which is really sad that it's taken so long, but it's what's needed.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It's like I said earlier, it's good. It's good for the sport. It's good for the exposure. It's doing F1 Academy is doing everything right, arguably, that W Series did wrong. And W Series had the right intentions, but F1 wanted almost nothing to do with it, is what it felt like, which was a real shame. They're actually doing the right thing there.
Yeah. Times are changing, and people are recognizing the need of social media, the need of female fans, and just the support of that. Obviously, when it was clipped to the stands, it was quite empty for some of the races, but some of the races were absolutely filled, like the race 2 on Saturday, because it was just before the sprints. That was packed, and that was great to see, and you could hear fans when Naomi Schiff was interviewing the drivers afterwards. It was great to see, and even the podiums as well. So it's a great step forward, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen next year with the involvement of the F1 teams and also like the tracks as well, because some of these tracks are brand new to most of these drivers potentially. I think the only ones that would have any kind of knowledge is the ones that have done like the Middle Eastern regional Formula 4, and that's it. And then obviously European as well, but there's a whole bunch of new tracks. We got Jeddah, we got Singapore, got Qatar. It's going to be a great season. I'm really looking forward to bring on 2024.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Genuinely cannot wait.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready. We got the calendar dates and everything. Just need to just hurry up. But we still have other things to talk about as well. But if y'all have liked this podcast, we would love it if you could take 5 to give us a 5-star rating on Spotify or a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're one of the 72% of people who have not yet subscribed to the channel, please consider helping us out with a like, share, subscribe, or follow. We got a lot of other news in other sports series. Let's start off with F2. So F2 is currently in testing, I believe, actually soon. F3 is testing as well at the moment. But in F2 news, Dennis Hauger has decided to leave the Red Bull Junior program for next year. There's also rumors that other drivers, i.e. the two from Carling, which is Zane Maloney and Enzo Fittipaldi, are potentially going to be leaving the junior driver program. Chris Miney, though, is announced as an Alpine Academy driver. Interesting. To be fair, he has been quite consistent without any kind of involvement. So it makes sense. And he has done quite well in the F2 season so far. So that news actually just dropped today. We're recording today on Tuesday. Kimi Antonetti. Now, I've been slightly vocal about this on some of the social media pages. He won FRECA this year. He has been consistently taking poles and wins. So he has a great track record. He is skipping Formula 3 to go straight into F2 with Prema, and it's also a Mercedes junior driver. Now, I still don't agree. I still think that he should go up the ranks. Don't get me wrong, he is a great driver. He is 16 years old, Italian, sorry. Wow, really big mistake that. 16-year-old Italian. But also that means Behrman or Vesti won't have a seat with Prema next year, who are both also sidetracking, taking part in FP Free Practice 1 in Mexico for Mercedes and Haas this weekend. But yeah, going back to Kimi, what's your take on it, Tom? Because I'm still hesitant on it.
I'm not hesitant. I think drivers should be almost made to do F3. If they're really that good or that hyped up, they shouldn't have a problem in F3 then, should they? I'm not saying go into F3 and win it in their rookie season, but I have some concerns because he's 16, right? He's going into F2, which is one step below F1, and the FIA introduced things that drivers have to have done a certain amount of stuff to get super license points to get into F1, for example. This came about after Max went from, I think he went from when it was F3 back then, before it was GP3. So it's that below GP3 into F1, and then Stroll did something similar, went straight from then F3 and into F1, because he didn't do GP2 or F2. He went straight to F1 in 2017. Obviously, you can't make comparisons between those two drivers because one's a 3-time champion, the other one's just an absolute idiot. But yeah, I really do think that a driver should almost have to go through those steps, because going from FRECA to F2, there's a lot more to learn. You read it, by the way. Yes, sorry, for the benefit of our audio listeners. So I've just said something very passionate at the microphone, but unfortunately, I can't read.
That's a big jump as well.
It's a huge jump, isn't it? Yeah. Do the FRECA cars even have DRS?
Yeah.
They do. I'm not. Yeah, I think so. But it's things like that. The F2 cars, obviously, a lot quicker, a lot more mechanical grip. They're absolute beasts to drive compared to the FRECA cars, and then the environment as well. F2, you've got drivers who are you got some drivers who are in the no disrespect, but they're more making up the numbers, going through perhaps with a bit of financial backing, and then you've got other drivers in F2 who are going to go into F1 or should be going into F1, whether that's through finances or whether that's through winning or being picked up by an F1 team. The fact that he's taking a Prema seat, which is one of the most coveted seats in F2, you could say. And, it was Behrman and it was his teammate. It was Behrman's teammate this year.
Vesti,
of course it was, yeah. Vesti is a Mercedes-backed driver, or certainly was. Ollie Behrman, yeah, I thought so, yeah. Ollie Behrman is Ferrari-backed. He made his first ever outing in an F1 car at Maranello a couple of weeks ago. I think he was in the 2020 car, maybe the 2019 car. It was definitely one of the it was definitely a pre-2022 car. And it's just, I don't agree with it. I think it's too much of a jump too soon. There's a level of maturity that you need to drive an F2 car. And I think F2 has been getting younger and younger as it is. And so to me, F2 is people who are maybe like early 20s, late teens. Back in 2016, my mate Matt Parry was racing in GP3, which is what F3 is today. And he was racing for Karainen, who aren't in GP3 anymore. Fun fact, his teammate for one race was Mahavir Ranganathan. Yeah. And Boschong was his teammate as well. I met Ralph. So I met Ralph Boschong and I met Mateusz Isakhan, who is SMP backed racer. He's Russian. He was lovely, man. He was wicked. Yeah, no. If I think back to back then, I met Leclerc on the grids in 2016 because obviously GP2 were in the same paddock. And even then, drivers were beginning to get a bit younger. Now, it feels like they are. I would argue they're too young, and I would argue that drivers need to spend a bit more time in a support series to develop a level of maturity. Now, I know you can't do a cookie cutter approach because if you look at how mature Piastri is, and he's 21, 22. I think he was born in 2001, so he's going to be 22 this year if he hasn't already had his birthday. And he won back-to-back. People like that, when they come through, you look at how, for the most part, I know I do slate him. If you look at, for the most part, how much George Russell, he obviously won back-to-back. He won F3, F2 back-to-back. And he did a couple of years at Williams and all the rest of it, but he came through the system. I don't think that jumping into F2 as a 16-year-old, when you've got people who've been an F2 for a year, 2 years, you've got Bosch who's been there since he became F2. I really don't feel that great with it. Yeah, I certainly don't agree with it. So, yeah, I'm a little bit. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I did double check. He's actually 17, but still.
Yeah.
I think also the fact that there's a lot of drivers in F3 who are trying to get in F2. I think he's jumped the queue.
It makes a bit of a mockery.
Yeah. If he was 16 as well, I would have raised the point saying, what happens if he wins? Because he can't race in F1 until he's 18 as well. So that's also another problem to think about as well, bringing these drivers up into Formula 2 so early on in their career. And if they do very well, which is what everybody wants, they want to win. If they win at 17 and they're not 18 by the time the season starts, they're out of a seat, and that could have been their only shot into a seat in F1 as well. That's also another thing to think about as well, which I don't know if people probably do consider it 100%, but that's also another factor to things. And timing is of essence, and I think this timing, and now the pressure's on him as well. He's the driver that's jumped. Like, that's going to be so much, and again, in a Prema, which is a big team.
He's not a backmarker in F2.
No, like, they've won championships. Like, they have drivers that have won championships. He's also Mercedes backed as well. So obviously that's going to play into fact, especially because also, again, we don't know who he's taking, if it's Behrman or Vesti's. Imagine if it's a Mercedes swap.
Oh, God, alive, yeah. If they were Red Bull back drivers, you could understand it, but Mercedes...
Yeah, they don't do that.
They don't do that. Also, if Prema end up boosting out Behrman, that's that's so harsh on Behrman because he's Ferrari backed. Obviously, Prema Italian team. I say it.
Performing better as well. Like, he has a record that Vesti doesn't have, which is the whole, pretty much taking almost all but 1 point of an entire F2 race.
Yeah, a perfect weekend for Bay. Behrman's 19, I think. And, sorry, was he 18?
18, yeah.
My bad. But if Behrman, if you look at his Baku weekend, for example, he's 18, first year in F2, and he topped pre-practice, he got pole, he won the sprint, and he won the feature race. A Grand Slam in F2 is unheard of. And
with fastest laps as well a few times.
It's just, if Prema are really going to bin that off, it's just, I can see them getting rid of Vesely, but whether Mercedes will have some influence on that, because obviously they're both Mercedes-backed drivers, and they could have like transfer obligations. And then if Vesely does get booted, where does he go? Does he stay in F2? Does he maybe go to did he go to perhaps a British-backed team somewhere else that Mercedes have got some influence? Because let's be fair, Toto's incredibly well connected. It's really hard to say, and whoever gets yeeted out of Prema, I feel for them. I don't think he should, if you're asking me, I don't think he should be Behrman, because I think he's performed better this season. I might be a little bit biased because I really like Ollie Behrman. He's arguably my favourite F2 driver, mainly because he was doing bits this year and I was mad impressed. But yeah, it's just going back to the topic at hand. It is, I'm not going to say that phrase, it is a bit of a take, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It does make a little bit of a mockery of the whole junior feeder process, where someone can go, "Oh, here's a checkbook," and then up they go.
Yeah,
but we've seen that since the dawn of time in motor racing. Money talks, doesn't it?
Yeah, he can't back it. He has won. He has poles. He has everything. He's not jumping the queue for the sake of just owning money. What we've seen with other drivers, he does have some credibility, but I still think that's too much of a jump. That the cars are so different. Even I've interviewed F3 drivers and F2 drivers, and they've the discussion of the differences between that even slight jump is a lot. So I think they've just fed him to the sharks, and it's just hindered somebody else's ability to come into F2 or retain their seat for another year that could have had a better opportunity, I think. But moving on, though, we're still in F2 news. It was announced early on this year, actually, that Jehan Daruvala was not returning to Formula 2 for next year. We all knew that was happening. He is actually racing full-time in Formula E. He was a test driver for Formula E for Mahindra Racing. It made sense that he just moved over. And also, speaking of Formula E, testing is going on as of today, at the start of testing in Valencia. Jehan obviously is doing testing. Nick De Vries is back for a full season in Formula E. Zay Maloney is testing in the Andretti car. Robert Schwartzman is for DS Penske. Taylor Barnard in Formula 3 is in the McLaren. And Victor Martins is in the Nissan. And then also, Tim Tramitz is in the ABT Cupra. Now, I've not mentioned his name before, but F3 is also doing their testing. And he is testing in Formula 3 as well. There's a lot of new faces coming back for the testing, for the final testing for Formula 3 right now. When it comes to drivers' news, we only have one driver confirmed for 2024, which is Dino Beganovic. He is with Prema again. That is a really good cause. He has done very well in Formula 3, so definitely well-deserved. But I definitely think after testing, we'll have a lot more announcements coming through. I want to see Sophia Flores. I want to see Marta Garcia. I think Marta Garcia is probably the best. I think she will go to Campos in Formula 3. I think that's probably the fact that they've changed drivers so often in Campos as well. It makes sense that because she can bring in funding, she has the back as well. So hopefully we'll be able to see her in Formula 3 and maybe the return again of Sophia Flores. But I'm excited. There's just so much going on now. It's the start of the silly season for everything. Other news, again, we're just talking about everything today. The number 30 Graham Rahal Letterman car in IndyCar next season will be driven by Haas reserve driver and grandson of Emerson Fittipaldi, brother to F2 driver Enzo Fittipaldi. Pietro is going to be racing full-time. He's replacing Yuri Vips, who was in the number 30 car this season. I think it's a great move, especially because Ollie is coming in and driving with Haas, and just doesn't seem to be much progression into the seat. Obviously, when it was figuring out who was going to take that second Haas seat, I said Pietro is probably one of the best ones to bring in, even though he is not experienced on track as much. He has been Haas's reserve for nearly 3 years as well. He's been involved with them from the start, and he's just not had the opportunities, and I feel like it was just a bad decision not to give him more opportunities, and that's why he's gone full-time into IndyCar. But great thing to see. I'm excited to see him race because he can race, and I think he's doing the ovals as well. So we'll see. Like, it'll be nice to have both brothers racing full time and full seasons. That is, if Enzo is racing in 2024. It's still not confirmed yet if he's with Carling next year. But yeah, I'm mute now. Payback.
I muted the actual microphone because I had muted myself in Zoom. Oh my word! Can you tell I'm back to work and trying to multitask? I can't.
We're both back to work. We're both coming back into the talk after a bit of a hiatus. Apologies to our listeners and viewers. We will get better with time.
So well, I'm just doomed from the outset. Yeah, no.
New co-host for 2024. I'm kidding.
I wouldn't be. Mate, I wouldn't even blame you. Honestly, this is your idea to do Formula Talk. I'm just the idiot who sets up the Zoom and waffles nonsense for half hour. And somehow you lot still listen to it. So thank you ever so much. And don't forget, leave 5-star rating. Darryl, what about that for a segue? Yeah. You made a good point about Enzo and not getting. Sorry, was
Pietro?
I was thinking, Pietro in the Haas or not in the Haas. And since there were lots of rumours in 2022 that he was going to get the seat when he who shall not be named was and some eventually dumped, but then obviously K-Mag came back. I still think that was the right decision to bring K-Mag back because I think Pietro and Schumacher would have been a recipe for disaster in that car. Pietro did do 2 races for Haas in 2020 after Grosjean's horrendous accident. So that was obviously Sakir and then Abstabs. Where yes, I did say that. Where he did, to be fair, he did all right. That car was a heap of absolute nothing. And then the 2021 car, he'd probably be quite glad he wasn't driving it. Done free practice sessions and testing and all the rest of it. I know Ollie Behrman was involved with Haas as well. He was sitting down as one of their, I don't know if he was a test driver or I think he was a test and development driver, not necessarily a reserve driver. I think Pietro's got the number 1 call on being reserve driver. Soon did. I don't know if he's still there. It does seem like there aren't going to be any seats forthcoming, certainly for now at Haas, because obviously Haas has signed up with the Chucker brothers for next year. Obviously, Hulk is 35, going on 36. There might be a change for next season. We don't know, and even then, it's not guaranteed. There was some Fittipaldi, obviously Brazilian, but massive in the US because his grandsons were born. Certainly, Pietro was born in Miami, I believe. And he's got dual nationality with Brazil and the US, so they're going to love him there. I think it's good. The Graham Rahal, it's a decent seat. Obviously, it's not an Andretti seat or anything like that in IndyCar. That's a tongue twister, especially when you need a coffee. But with Ollie Behrman doing more for Haas, he's doing FP1 in I think Mexico and Abu Dhabi, is it? Yeah. I've got a feeling it is, yeah. Yeah, I couldn't remember if there was 3, but we've only got about 4 races left, especially with one of them being a sprint in F1 as well. They're going to need that free practice session in Brazil. Yeah, I think it's a good move, and I know you said it as well, so if you think it's a good move for him in IndyCar. Next season, I'm going to say now, I'm going to watch like all of IndyCar if I can, because the bits I did see this season, it was bloody brilliant. I really liked it. So I really do want to watch it next season. And also, given the fact that he's boosted out Yuri Vips, that's just quite funny, isn't it? Yuri Vips has not done himself any favours over the last couple of years.
He's done well, though, for driving. He has performed very well. He was in the Fast 12, his first race. He has done well on track. It's his off track that's pretty much killed his career. He might have a seat somewhere else. We don't know. We're still figuring out who's racing for who in IndyCar. There's been some changes already. Did Malukas to McLaren, Palou staying back and removing himself from McLaren. There's still seats available, and obviously new teams are potentially joining or partnering. I know McLaren with, I can't pronounce it very well, the team with Caleb Eilard and August Capino, they are being partnered as well, and obviously teams are bringing in new cars, so he might have another seat somewhere. Don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Tomo. You think?
Yeah, I could. That's a tongue twister for me.
Definitely didn't just Google it, by the way.
Yeah, I knew the name, I just couldn't pronounce it. That's the problem with sometimes being on these podcasts. Is like you get really obscure names and trying to pronounce it, especially with my pronunciations of things, it's not the best.
No, mine's not perfect either. Sometimes my Welsh gets in the way. So yeah. One thing I did want to say, and this is probably segueing into a little bit more of an outro, so sorry for semi-stealing your thunder as the beauty and the brains behind Formula Talk, is obviously we've been a little bit stop-starty with our shows, but for the benefit of all our listeners, and for anybody who actually watches this as well, hello, we do have a couple of shows scheduled. So we've not got anything next week in the calendar because there's nothing major to talk about. Our next show will probably be the Abu Dhabi preview because that's obviously the final round of F2 and the championship is on the line. Where have we heard that before? Abu Dhabi championship on the line. What happened last time we had that in motorsport?
Oh, shut up.
Yes. No. So we'll have an Abu Dhabi preview. I'm just looking at the calendar now. So it's going to be they'll probably be out on the 21st of November. That'll probably be the day which we record it. So Tuesdays are our day. Obviously, that's subject to availability. We might record it a little bit before then, could be out before then. But by then, it should be out. And then obviously, say the Tuesday after Abu Dhabi, we'll have our Abu Dhabi review. That's going to be a review of the Abu Dhabi, of the race. We might delve a bit into the championship, but then in December, potentially to 6, or maybe once he's back home in Bermuda.
I was like, please get it right.
Do you know what? I stumbled over it in my head, and as I started saying Bermuda, I went, oh, heck, it's a Barbados. But I was just like, because the problem is, because I've wound you up so much about it,
I've true.
I've got Stockholm syndrome from myself. I was just like, come on, Tom, you can get this right. So there'll be an F3 and F2 recap. It might be in one episode that we'll probably split F3 into one episode, F2 into another episode, and F1 Academy into another episode. Who knows? But in the off season, we'll be having a fair amount of content coming your way, and we're also going to be having a bit of a roundtable discussion, probably with Aaron, who's been on before, because Aaron and I had a chat once when we were playing F1 about the sort of whole bridge from F2 into F1. So how perhaps things. Yeah, we had some thoughts around how it could be approached, so expect that episode. And if you're a fan of episodes where it sounds like it's two mates sitting around chatting, in a less sort of like strictly like podcasty sense like this, where it's more just like in a monologue, letting the intrusive thoughts win, which is never good, then if everybody enjoys that, you may want to enjoy that one. Because we started talking about it, and I said, Aaron, save the thoughts. We'll do it in a podcast. So that one will be coming in the off season. So we've got some thoughts about that. So expect some content certainly in end of November, then through December, and then through January as well. We'll say like a rule of thumb every other week.
Yeah.
Just to keep it flowing, because we've been on a little bit of a hiatus for a couple of months. I've been away, we've both been rather busy to say the least. We want to keep the content coming for you. So if I can hand back to you so you can segue us out.
100%. Yeah, there's so much content. We even might just pop up once depending on how the news is as well. Obviously, today's episode had a lot of news towards the back end of talking about F1 Academy as well. So we're expecting a lot of driver announcements to come through for F2, F3. We'll throw in Freka, who's just recently finishing up their season as well. There's so much to talk about. Obviously, GT has just ended as well. GB3s, karting, everything's just been going on. So we might cover some bits in the off season as well. So definitely do follow us on social media at Good Talk UK to hear when we release new episodes. And then also, again, Grid Talk will always still be releasing stuff about F1 throughout the season as well and off season. So Formula Talk is pretty much available on YouTube, where episodes aren't recorded live. Still haven't done that. Abu Dhabi review, maybe. That's probably like the best time maybe that we can do it. But probably not. We say it every time. But you can find our episodes that are pre-recorded onto YouTube, as well as Amazon Fire, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music, Verbal, and Pocket Cast. Just search Formula Talk for our backlog catalog of shows and previews and reactions to the races. As well, you can also find Grid Talk. As mentioned, they cover qualifying, race results, and previews. Pretty much everything F1. Please consider supporting the channel on Patreon, so we can get mics, lights, and better recording equipment. And again, make sure you are subscribed so you're the first to know when each new episode is released. We'll be back soon with plenty more motorsport content. We'll probably be talking about some of the news, or as mentioned, previewing the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix for Formula 2. Thank you, Tom, for joining me as always.
You're welcome. Definitely wasn't replying to a team's message.
Yeah, in the midst of work. And again, thank you very much. Thank you so much for listening to Formula Talk presented by Bet Online. And goodbye.